Alright, again, I can't see exactly where this camera is facing. So, Lord willing, at least you'll be able to hear me, even if this isn't picking up me all the way on the screen. Alright, so first off, I'll say all praise to Yahweh, in the name of His Son, Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Alright, double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, otherwise known as GMS for short, but also known as Prophets of Doom. These are where I have learned this truth and where I am still learning this truth. And also shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Lord willing, I am of that number. All right, let me see. I want to try something really quick here. Give me a quick second. All right, hopefully that's a little bit better. All right. I really can't tell what this is picking up. So before we get started, before I forget, I do want to read this fair use, because I know that I'm at least going to play one video online. So let me get this fair use statement. Okay. So listen up. Fair use disclaimer. It says copyright disclaimer under section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All rights and credit go directly to its rightful owners. No copyright infringement is intended. And this is the fair use definition. It says fair use is a doctrine in the United States copyright law that allows for limited use of copyrighted material without requiring permission from the rights holders, such as commentary, criticism, news reporting, research, teaching, or scholarship. It provides for the legal, non-licensed citation or incorporation of a copyrighted material in another author's work. Okay? So now that we got that out of the way. This is a video that has been on my mind to do for a while. And of course, my elders, the apostles, bishops of Great Millstone, and other brothers among Great Millstone that are maybe even younger than me, okay, on this earth, but are older than me in spirit, all right? They came into this truth before I have, all right? And they have all done videos on this. My teachers have been back and forth throughout the entire Bible, all right? So the body that I am a part of, right, that I learned from, has the 100% truth, okay? Does that mean that I am not learning anymore? Nah, I'm just getting started. All right, every time I learn something, it's not far behind that learning that I also realize that there is much more that I don't know. All right, and I've been excited to learn. All right, as the days pass. Since day one, it has grown more, and I didn't know that that was possible. Okay. All right, so this video is going to be on Revelation 17. We went through Daniel chapter 2. We went through Daniel chapter 1. We went through Revelation 13. Okay. All zooming in. Okay. What I mean by zooming in is honing in on more and more on this Edomite system. Okay. The dominion, the beast system, which is the Edomite dominion. Okay. And the system that upholds it. Now we're zooming in even more so. Okay. In on Babylon the Great. All right. You hear all the time on this channel, also along with everyone else that I learned from, you always hear us speak of Babylon the Great being America. Okay. Although the world has a different interpretation, but this world has had many interpretations of the scriptures, and it has not been the truth. not the 100% truth. Okay, so truth you cannot deny. As a matter of fact, let's go get that really quick. Luke 21:15. All right, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. There's no way around the truth. Okay, there's no way around the truth. The truth is the truth. Period. It doesn't give a fuck about no feelings, emotions. It doesn't not care about that. All right. The truth is the truth. And as a matter of fact, brother, your call. All right, on the channel, Israelites are back. All right. Our reading this past weekend outside was it included Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7. That's a tough. As all the books of the scriptures are. All right. That's a tough reading. All right. Meaning it's another dope reading to go through, man. You have to go look at that. All right. Speaking of wisdom. Okay. But wisdom knocks down everything. All right. Truth knocks down everything. Nothing can stand against it, as it says here. All right. Which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. All right. And I forgot why I was even on that. But the truth is that America, okay, is Babylon the Great. All right. America is the future site of the lake of fire, as I always say, along with that. All right, so what we find here in Revelation 17 is, okay, the doom. It's titled The Doom of Babylon. So we're going to get into it and we're going to explain this. It is not as in-depth of a breakdown as my elders and the apostles and the bishops and all the brothers that I learned from. It is not as deep as what they have went or can go. Okay. This is going to be a breakdown nonetheless, though. Okay. Nonetheless, if you are coming in from the world and you're listening to this, you're still going to learn something. Okay. For the brothers who do know this, for my teachers, elders, apostles, all right, I expect, okay, for just as you expect from me to listen, okay, and understand, us younger brothers, expect for your correction if you hear us go off, all right? Which, Lord willing, all right, I'll keep to the things that I know, okay? And go into them as much as I can, all right? Even though, all right, there are many scriptures that complement what we are going to go into. You can't go through, well, at least I can't go into every single thing that, and as far as the other scriptures that point to this, okay? But nonetheless, we can go into enough to where I heard these things and understood them, okay? As a matter of fact, I think I have notes on Revelation 17, but we'll just go off the top of the head, not winging it, all right, but all right, going through what is in my mind, all right. So let's go ahead and get to it. Let me make sure there was something else. Oh, also the well, we'll get to that later. All right, we'll get to that later. I want to speak about the cover art for this video, okay? But the video within this video that we're going to look at, all right, with Pacino, okay, will it goes along with the cover art for this video, okay? And a verse in here is what makes me think of the video clip and the cover art. So let's go ahead and get started. As we stated earlier, the heading for Revelation 17 is the doom of Babylon. The doom of Babylon. So let's get that definition first. All right, let's get that definition first. Define doom. Okay. Doom. It says death, destruction, or some other terrible fate. What we're going to hear about in this chapter is the doom of Babylon, as its title. All right, she's doomed to suffer with the fire. All right, the Lord is going to be bringing fire upon this place and everyone who holds to this place. Okay, in the verb sense, as far as what the Lord is doing, all right, bringing doom. In the verb sense, it says condemn to certain destruction or death. And in this chapter, we're going to find out that this whore, all right, the Babylon the Great, all right, is condemned, all right, to certain destruction or death, all right, meaning that this is going to happen, all right. So Revelation 17:1, it reads, and there, and before we go, I do want to, Lord willing, we get to do a good news translation, all right, put the good news under the scope, and also an NLT reading, okay, put the NLT under the scope, but I really want to read those other translations after this light breakdown, okay. So bear with the King James and my reading, okay, and Lord willing, you understand, all right. If not, you can come back, or you can pray, come back and listen to it again, or pray, and maybe the Good News or the New Living Translation, maybe those will open up your understanding even more. All right. So Revelation 17:1, it says, and there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Let's go in here and get an understanding of what whore is, okay? Well, let's see what judgment is. All right, let's see what judgment is. So here's the word.
Strong's G 2917, Krima.
Outline of biblical usage, it says a decree, judgment. All right, it says a condemnation of wrong. It says the decision, whether severe or mild, which one passes on the faults of others. Okay, it says the sentence of a judge. Now, who is the most high and mighty judge? It is Yahweh. All right, Yahweh, Baal Shem Yahweh Shai. All right, the sentence of a judge. It says the punishment with which one is sentenced. Okay, condemnatory sentence, penal judgment. All right, a sentence. It says a matter to be judicially decided, a lawsuit, a case in court. Okay, a Strong's definition. It says a decision. It says the function or the effect for or against crime. All right, it says avenge. Okay, all right. So this is a sentence that's going to be pronounced on this whore, okay? That is America. And you'll Lord willing, you'll understand the more that we read, okay? Let me check something out before we move along here. Man. All right. So let's go back to these verses. Oh, no, we did want to check out the word for. All right, hold on a second here. The judgment of the great whore. All right, let's find out what the word for whore is.
Strong's G 4204, Parne.
All right. Outline the biblical usage for the word whore. All right, it says a woman who sells her body for sexual uses. It says a prostitute, a harlot, one who yields herself to defilement for the sake of gain. Now, you have to think about this. Now, you know, this nation, this country isn't an actual female, but think about it in the spiritual sense. Okay? Again, a prostitute, a harlot, one who yields herself to defilement for the sake of gain. Okay? It says any woman indulging in unlawful sexual intercourse, whether for gain or for lust. Metaphor for an idolatress. Okay? All right. Now it also says of Babylon, i.e., Rome, the chief seat of idolatry. We've also went into speaking about this is a second leg of Rome. This is, like we just read there, it says of Babylon, for example, Rome. Okay, this is Babylon the Great. Okay, so if Rome was a chief seat of idolatry at its time, this is the great seat of great, or the seat of great idolatry at this time. All right, America. Okay, Strong's definition still goes into. It says figuratively an idolater, a harlot, a whore. All right. So what do whores do? They commit adultery. Now, in the spiritual sense, for you Israelites, all right, you have a power. All right, you have you have laws, you have statutes, you have commandments. All right, you have a power. You have Yahweh, Bohoshem, or Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai. All right, you have Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. So when you go off on these other beliefs, philosophies, policies, all right, even if you think you're not going off the policies of this whore, all right, she put it in your mind to do as thou wilt, and you go off on that. So you are committing spiritual idolatry, all right? This whore is raising a lot of whores, all right? It's raising a lot of whores, all right? So again, when you get that definition, again, a prostitute, a harlot, one who yields herself to defilement for the sake of gain. What makes you defiled as Israelites? These other beliefs, philosophies, okay? And you do it for the sake of gain, all right? You do it for the sake of gain, of gaining things in this world, all right? If you were to be kingdom-minded, you wouldn't defile yourself. You would obey to the best of your ability in this time. You would obey Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, all right? So you are being raised by a whore, so you are thus being a whore for the most part, speaking to Israel. Okay, let's go back to the verse. At the top again, it says, and there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Now, what does that mean? Sitteth upon many waters. Down here in the chapter, it'll tell you that, let me see. In verse 15, it tells you, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So that solves the mystery of what it means by the waters. Okay, this woman governs your walk, all right, your way of life by her way of life. Okay, she pushes it on to you. All right. Revelation 17:2, it says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. All right. So the kings of the earth, all right, there are not a lot of people around here that call themselves kings, but that doesn't mean that they're not heads, all right, people in high regard, all right, like presidents or prime ministers or heads of state, things like this. All right, these are the kings that this verse speaks of, all right, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. Again, we just spoke about what that fornication is. All right, you can worship anything here in Babylon the Great. A lot of people want to come here for that fact alone. All right, they have an idea of what it what it means to be American, okay? Just like Rome, there was an idea of Rome back then, okay? You hear that a lot in movies. Rome is an ideal, okay? That's the same way with America, right? The same way. You are at liberty to do anything, to worship anything that you want to over here, even multiple things, right? But the Lord commands that we be holy. The Lord commands that we love Him above everything else, okay? And put nothing before Him. So we have one power, right? And that's how we're supposed to carry ourselves. But again, having the liberty to follow after many of these philosophies and beliefs, this is what happens to Americans or Israelites in an American mind state. All right, which that's what Gentile is. Gentile was an Israelite, right, in the mind state of the nations that surrounded them. Okay, it's the same thing. So again, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. Now, these are talking about these other countries, all right? These other countries have given in to America's philosophies, their beliefs. As a matter of fact, that made me think of another video that I do want to play here, all right? It says, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication, all right? Given into her policies, her many policies. Okay, have you heard of, let's just see what this definition for Americanization is. Define which is the modern day Hellenism. Okay, so define Americanization. Let's see what that is. Americanization. All right, the action of making a person or thing American in character or nationality. You hear that? And you cannot switch your nationality, man. You cannot switch your nationality. If you are an Israelite, you're an Israelite. It doesn't matter where you are from, what nation you are among, or anything like that. Also, if you are not an Israelite, nothing is going to make you an Israelite. Okay? But we don't know whom is who. Okay? We can tell we have clues because we know certain characteristics or traits of at least the remnant and the elect. Okay? But we're not going to know whom is who until the Lord comes. But there are certain characteristics and traits that will tell you. Okay? And then there are some that, you can't judge by your eyes alone, by your ears alone. All right? A lot of people don't even know, don't even have the thought in their head that they could be an Israelite because of an outward look, because of how they act, because of how they don't act, whatever. All right? You could see someone who looks so-called white, okay, that puts off the scriptures, don't want to hear about the scriptures, but that could be a hard-headed 2/3 Israelite, man. You just never know. The Lord is bad like that, man. He's tough. Okay? So again, Americanization, the action of making a person or thing American in character or nationality. Now, speaking of that, I do want to play this video, and we already went over the fair use statement. Okay? I'm pretty sure I played this video before, but what is it called again? Oh. Okay, so I'm gonna play this short video. All right, so you can see some of the methodia, like we went over in the previous video, the wiles of the devil. Right, we're gonna look at one methodia, another example of a methodia of how this whore gets you to follow her ways. All right, so give me a second, and we'll get this to play. All right, so hold on a minute here. All right, so give me a second here. Here's an example. All right. You can see the channel right here and the video title. All right. So here we go. Just listen up. Hope it's not too loud. All right.
The economic hitmen have managed to create the world's first truly global empire, and it's basically a secret empire. We do it in many ways, but principally, we identify a country that has resources our corporations covet, like oil, arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sisters. The money never actually goes to the country, it goes to our own corporations that build big infrastructure projects in that country that help a few very wealthy people, but don't benefit the majority of the people who are too poor to buy electricity or have cars to drive on the highways, and yet they're left holding a huge debt that they can't repay. So we go back at some point and say, you can't pay your debts. Give us a pound of flesh, sell your oil real cheap to our oil companies. Vote with us on the next critical UN vote. Allow us to build a military base in your backyard. Something along these lines. And when we fail, the jackals go in and either overthrow or assassinate these leaders. And if the jackals fail, as they did in Iraq, then we send in the military. I don't think the failure is capitalism. I think it's a specific kind of capitalism that we've developed. We've created what I consider a mutant, viral form of capitalism. And this mutant form of capitalism, which I think is really a predatory form of capitalism, has created an extremely unstable, unsustainable, unjust, and very, very dangerous world. I've met a lot of terrorists. I've interviewed them for books. I've never met one who wanted to be a terrorist. They're desperate people. If we want to get rid of terrorism, we must get rid of the root causes, that cancer that is destroying our whole system. Because I think it's really important that we understand today we cannot have homeland security unless we understand that the whole planet is our homeland.
All right. I hope you can hear that. If not, you can always turn on the closed caption. I think closed caption picks up the words in these videos that we play pretty well. But we are going to do a part 2 to this video. Lord willing, we'll come right back. But I see how much time has passed, so I just want to keep this between 30 and 40 minutes. So with that, I hope part 1, all right, came through as sincere and edifying. And with that, all praise to Yahweh, in the name of his son, Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. All right, again, double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, otherwise known as GMS for short, but also known as the prophets of doom. These are where I have learned this truth and where I am still learning this truth. And also, shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Lord willing, I am of that number, and Lord willing, we'll see you in the next video. Shalom.